Oh, you caught me dancing. That's kind of groovy, that stuff. Really deep and meaningful music. All right, so welcome. We are here on Tuesday. It's the first Tuesday of the month, so that's what you know it's called, first Tuesday of the month. So we have AMAs. And for anyone new to the Speakeasy group, this is AMA, Ask Me Anything. We get an expert on, we get friends on, we get people to come on to talk about different things. And this week, I've got a fellow Speakeasy member, been around the block ages. Well, he just gets around. So let's welcome the one and only Ed Parcaut.
I'm kind of offended by that intro. I get around.
It was really nice. It was the best I could come up with. We got chatting last week because for anyone that doesn't know you, and they really should, you know, you've been ingrained into the Speakeasy family since forever. Actually, on that note, how long have you been part of the Speakeasy family? What's it been, like 5 years, 4 years?
No, first time I went to Speakeasy was San Francisco. So whenever that was the first one.
Wow. Okay.
That was like almost 3 years ago.
Yeah. So for anyone that doesn't know you, you can learn everything you need to on edparcaut.com. But you do radio shows, you do various radio shows, various podcasts. There's a lot of people out there that have got one podcast. You got three, and you've got radio shows as well. So you spend a lot of the time behind a mic staring at a screen, or not even staring at a screen sometimes when it's radio. And then last week you went to, what was the thing called? Podfest or what was?
It was called Podfest.
All right. Yeah. What was it?
It was, so they put this first, I guess, the event on in 2020, right before COVID, and that was their big one. And then this one was even bigger because it had been 2 years later since they'd done it. And it was everything to know about podcasting from beginning to advance. And then I fell into, which I didn't know, there was another conference going on inside of it. They have these smaller ones. It's called VidFest. And had everything to do with YouTube, LinkedIn, Amazon Lives, and all those different things that are coming up. And I ended up sitting in that area for most of the 4 days I was there.
So, okay, so this is the second one you've been to? Or
no, it's the first one. This is the first one. Yeah.
All right, but you've been in podcasts, you know, you've helped me out with mic selection, cameras, and things like that. So you're very knowledgeable in that production side. What surprised you at Podfest? You went, oh my God, I hadn't thought of that, or this is coming. Where were the surprises?
I was sitting next to the Squadcast people.
And we had them in San Francisco.
Yeah, so that's when they were like, oh, that was a great event that we were there with Steve, and they were actually talking you up. So I don't want you to get a big head because it's already big enough. And they were talking about how in June they're going to have it to where you can be a production studio with their software, meaning that you can have multiple podcasts, you can have multiple people in. And even if they have an attorney or somebody else, a publicist that needs to see what they're saying, they can be back in the green room, which for me today coming in is the first time I saw the other side of StreamYard, sitting in waiting to come in. So.
Right. Okay. And so a lot of this stuff now, Squadcast, one of the things we got to bring up about Squadcast, and the guys are brilliant. Squadcast and Riverside, they do something very different to like the world of StreamYard and Zoom and any of those other things, because they record locally. Do you want to be the one that explains what that means, recorded locally?
Sure, unless you want to, but it's basically so your packets stay on your side, record on your side. So if you have an issue with your Wi-Fi, like when we first were on, you jerked a little bit, which meant with Squadcast, all those things would be downloaded. You wouldn't know that because it gets sent over every so many minutes, and it's great because if you have issues with any Wi-Fi or anybody slows down, you just keep going, and the podcast keeps going. And it's amazing.
So it records locally either side, and then it's uploaded it's uninterrupted. Right. And you're right, StreamYard, Zoom, any of these things, you're actually recording it at a central source, so you are at the mercy of how good your Wi-Fi is. So are they doing video now? Because they only ever used to be audio, and the audio was phenomenal, and I would imagine probably still is. But are they going to be doing video?
They've been doing video for a while now. I think a whole year, because I had them first. And then I saw you were doing StreamYard, which was, I love the fact that you put the names, you could put the information up there on the top.
Yes.
It was one less step of editing and paying somebody to do it. So you could actually have all that up front there and just mess with the sound and you're done. Where if you have to go edit it and put all that stuff in, that's just more and more money. So that's why
Yes.
I like this. They don't have that yet, but I think they're going to
Okay.
get to that. Right.
I think, look, whenever you find one company you really like, another company's watching them, ends up copying them. So it's all moving around. But the fact that there was a vid fest, are more people focusing on video than just like audio only podcasts now?
Yeah,
And why?
that's the future. Video podcasts. That is the future. No more just sound. So I guess Spotify, one of the reasons Joe Rogan went over Spotify is because they're going to be doing video through Spotify.
And you mentioned something, Amazon Stream.
Yeah, they had, so I had no idea about it. I guess you can do an Amazon Live, which is inside of Amazon. You can do what we're doing now, right? A live. They had a whole day on it, and it talked to how to set it up. It's only been for influencers. Weird saying that word, influence, for the last 6 months. And basically you can get in there, have another channel. You do your podcast through there. Most people are on your podcast talking about their book. And guess what? You can get the little code there, and then now you can get part of their little book as they sell it while they're explaining it. And I was talking to a bunch of people, and there was one lady there, and I don't mean this with any disrespect, but she was not the sharpest knife in the drawer, and she's making 50 grand a month doing it. So
Wow. So video's the future. So let's look at some production for a start. A lot of people think that if they're going to do any kind of podcast, it's expensive. It's not expensive to actually set up a podcast, to actually start doing the podcast, is it?
no, and you just need to get started, because you're going to be, as we say, you're going to be horrible in the beginning anyway. So just get it going and start the process, because people want to know you're going to be consistent. The other thing is, so in 2020, when they did that time, there was like 2 million podcasts and only 248,000 were still going. That means the 10th episode to the 24th episode are usually when people start quitting, because they look at the cost and everything involved. Now it's about 600,000 of them are still available, and there's millions and millions of them that are out there. So
let's look at the classic line of me. What's the point? The ROI of a podcast in your thought process, and you do 3 podcasts and radio shows. What would you say your ROI is, and why? Why do you do a podcast?
well, so the radio, right? I do radio because that was how it was weird. All of a sudden you're on radio, people think you know what you're talking about. You get that automatic knowing that,
Okay.
what's the word I'm looking for. But then I was
Credibility.
like, thank you. But we're out there, you're hitting 51 to 71,000 people weekly on your show out there. I was like, how do I get it to a different group of people, but using the same thing I just said, but editing and cleaned it up? And so we started a podcast from Real Estate Jerky, the radio show. That was the first one I did. That was 4 years ago. Well, it'll be 4 years in August. Then we were talking. I said, I want to do something outside the industry, which is my inner Edison, which is, your greatest accomplishments usually come from your greatest defeats. And I get a lot of people on there talking about that, but I do that because I want to be in a different world and understand that I'm not just a mortgage person. I can talk about many different things. And then I've had Helping the Brave domain for a couple of years, and we decided to do that podcast, which is helping veterans once you take the uniform off, because there's a huge need for that. That is more of my give back. You follow me? I'm not looking for anything except for helping vets. The inner Edison is, I don't know where I'm going with that one, but I really enjoy talking to people. I find from what I do for a living is have conversations with people, that I really enjoy talking to people all over the world and finding out why they do what they do.
So
the ROI isn't so much, it's to elevate me, not to make money from the podcast. You follow me?
all right. Okay.
That's your question. I answered it. It just took a long time to get there.
Well, no, you actually came up with a good, valid point. The downside, and I'm going to be as aggressive to say the immature side, is when you look at an ROI, you look at how much money I'm making out of this. Okay, because return on investment. But investment isn't necessarily money. Investment is time. And we can make more money, but we can't make more time. So what is the return on investment when you sink an hour into doing a podcast? What do you get out of it? And you've already said it elevates your status. It elevates your credibility. It basically puts you in other people's sandpits, other people's industries, other people's conversations. So it's a greater brand distribution than it is a monetary one. Would that be accurate?
Yeah, that's accurate. Plus, you get to talk to people you would never get to talk to.
Which
Right.
is always a good,
That's huge. I mean, how I had Jeffrey Madoff on from your speakeasy. How hard would it have been for me to have him on if I didn't meet him at your speakeasy or some other place? It would have been very difficult.
Yeah.
And we had a great conversation, and he sent the thing to Chrissy saying, thanks for connecting us. And it's, you know, it's important. People, you want to do an amazing job with these. Make sure you understand what you're doing. And I know it's going to take time, but you need to understand what you're trying to get from it. One of the biggest headaches I'm hearing from people on podcasts is they have all these questions, right? They ask this question, and then they ask the next question, and then they ask the next question. There's no flow to it. That's a good podcast. You do a good job. You had me on, and you did a very excellent job on that one.
You did point out something that we always say, get going, then get good. And we have to give respect to Ari Meisel, because Ari Meisel was the one that came up with that saying, because let's be blunt, I would imagine if you went back to your first ever radio show or your first ever podcast, it was pretty shit compared to what it is now.
It's extremely horrible.
Right. So
even my lives that I did for, I fill in for other radio shows for the station because they call me and they say, come on in. Yeah, thanks a lot, Brian.
Yeah, that's very nice.
I'm not Quasimodo. We can get him back. Even those lives, because they're live and talking to people and what you say and can't say, even the last 6 months, I've changed from being so much better on those. It's that thing that you tell us to do. Go get uncomfortable with everything you do. You should make you uncomfortable. And that's what I do.
The conversations are great. I had a friend of mine in Palm Beach, and he bought this magazine that hadn't done a single production it was ridiculous, like 20 years. I never, ever saw a copy of the magazine. I don't think he ever even produced it, but he bought it. And so he bought the media badge. So every time there was a concert, he was backstage. Every time there was an unveiling, a show, an award show, he was backstage because he had a media pass because he owned this media agency, this magazine. But he used it as a point of access. We don't need that now, because when you own your own podcast, excuse me, and you're focused on having a good conversation to distribute the guest and get them into a wider audience, it's very similar to having that media pass. And as you've just said, you can have conversations with people you never would have thought you would have had a conversation with. And the other good thing is there's no flight. There's no expenses, so there's no cost. So people are a lot more open to do it. You say about Jeffrey Madoff. I had Sammy the Bull Gravano the other day, the hitman to the Gotti and Gambino family. I don't know what circle I have ever had to have been in to be able to have spent 3 days with him in Arizona. But if you have a podcast, now it opens other doors. So you've got distribution. You've got the increase of credibility. Let's look at a pocket budget.
Before we get there, can we go back to one more statement what we just talked about? I know it's your show. Yeah. I apologize for trying to take over.
It's not. It's the Speakeasy show, but carry on.
All right. So one of the podcast things was about talking to celebrities, right?
Okay.
I'm originally from San Diego and LA, so that's not a major issue for me. It's not like I'm going for them. But they had about 8 of them on stage, and they were talking about how they said, well, they think podcasting is the new media. So they want to be on people's podcasts because that's how they can get in, like you said, in other people's sandbox. And one of the things they talked about is if you want to have us on your show, please do a little research about us. Please find out how it's going to benefit us. And then one of the guy was an actor, and he's like, if you go to my Instagram page and it says to talk to my manager, you better be talking to my manager and not hit me up through Instagram. And he was just saying, we all want to be on your podcast, but we want you to tell us why it's important for us to be on your podcast. And it was, Eric, the trainer down there.
Yeah.
He was there and he was really nice. And they had Chef Rush, Chef Rush is, he was there. And so that was their whole group. And they're all like, yeah, we'll be. So I have every one of them coming on my podcast. because I talked to them afterwards, and they all want to be on your podcast.
Positioning. Now, this doesn't have to just be on podcasts, and I've spoken about this at speakeasies before. When you're speaking to someone, they know you want something. So I get a lot of people say to me, oh, I want to get Elon Musk on my podcast. I want to get Jeffrey Madoff on my podcast. I want to get Brian Golk on my podcast. I don't know why you would want Brian Golk.
I don't know either. That was a horrible statement.
But there's these people that come to me and they go, hey, I want to get some. I know. But why would they want to be? See, a lot of people go with the wrong question. The question should never be, or the statement should never be, I want them on my podcast. The statement should always be, they should be on my podcast because I can do this for them. I can provide this. And as you know, me and Henry, we run Sims Media. We can see the stats of media platforms. Now, years ago, the greatest media for you to be on was TV. Now, the downside with TV is you would get on the Today Show, the biggest show in the planet 5 years ago. Okay. That was the thing you want. And if you got your 3 minutes on there promoting your book, your product, your movie, your song, whatever, that was really good. That was big. I remember I did I think it was like 6 minutes on a TV show once for NBC. And they were like, oh my God, you got 6 minutes, man. And this was like, I never got the video. Anyone that ever saw the video had to go to their website. I never got any of the assets, and they were able to riddle that with advert after advert after advert. So I was not in control. Now, fast forward it today, when Gary Vee sells something, he doesn't go on the Today Show, he goes on podcasts. Matthew McConaughey, one of the biggest actors in the planet, still a big household name. When he did his book launch, he didn't focus on TV shows. He focused on podcasts. And as Gary always said, when I've got something to sell, I'm everywhere. So find out, if you want a celebrity, why should they be on your show for their benefit? Do they have a project? Do they have a charity? Do they have a book? Do they have a series? Do they have a song? Whatever it is. But if they've got nothing going on, then, and a classic one is Julia Roberts. Everyone says that Julia Roberts only comes out of hibernation when there's a movie to promote. You never see her doing the interviews. You never see her on the red carpet unless there's a movie out. And then she's absolutely everywhere.
Right. And if you do...
Carry on.
No, it's your show.
No, I was going to say, so you've got to focus on them. Why do they want to be there? That was my final bit.
And when you do well for them, they will tell everybody else in their circle to get on your show. That's the key. So you must really do well for the first one. We have one of the first ones actually coming on Helping the Brave this week. So
good. Yeah, podcasts, without a doubt, when you look at the stats, podcasts are not only the new medium, they're the best medium. And let's be blunt. If I could offer you, if you're selling a book, answer yourself this. Would you be better off being, and you can pick the Today Show, CNBC, NBC, any of these shows, Good Morning America, whatever, or would you rather be on Joe Rogan's podcast?
Definitely Joe Rogan's. Yeah.
Well, again,
it depends on and it also depends on who you want to talk to, right? What market you're trying to hit also. Right, because not everybody watches Joe Rogan. He's got a 3-hour thing. Do you have that much time a day for 5 days a week?
And you're correct, but podcasts are without a doubt the best medium. And let's focus on. Let's play both sides of the fence here for a second. If you want to get a bigger distribution, and we're both podcast hosts, okay, we've both got podcasts. You're a show off. You got like 15. But if you are a podcast host, for one, you need guests. Mm-hmm. We need people to fill up these air times. Okay. We may be 8 weeks in advance, but hey, I need the 9th week. I need the 10th week. I need the 11th. So I always need good guests. Now, if you made $1 million from your first ClickFunnels campaign, don't reach out to me. You're not my kind of person, but we need people. So for a start, We need to be fed with interesting characters. But the second thing is the standard. Now, I've been on very good podcasts. I've been on very famous, and I won't name them. I've been on very famous people's podcasts, and it's moved the needle a little bit in my book sales, my signups, visitors to my website, whatever. And then I've been on podcasts with like 5,000 downloads. And in the world of podcasts, that's not a big download. And I've been in those podcasts and I've sold 200 books. The one thing I did notice is if they got a small, loyal, committed following, they are more actionable than the big ones. And so don't sit there. I remember when Jordan Harbinger from The Art of Charm, I said to him, I want to do more podcasts. He said, I'll help you out, Steve. I'll send you my PDF. And he sent me a PDF. And this was a 3-page PDF with questions on there going, how many downloads? What's your demographic? How long have you been around? Blah, blah, blah. All of these stats. And if they hit those stats, then he would consider being on their podcast. Now, I wrote back to him with my stats, and mine were 2. 1, they must have a podcast. 2, they must be alive at the time of recording the podcast. I didn't care what happened afterwards, but they must be alive at the point of the. And those were my joke and 2. Now, I've been on some seriously small podcasts that have exploded, and I'm on there. So where does it hurt? For me, I do a 10:30 podcast because I know at 10:30, 11 o'clock in the morning, I'm going to drink a cappuccino. I might as well drink a cappuccino and talk to someone new. And if they're not interesting, you're still drinking your cappuccino. You can always end the podcast early.
Right. And you can all have technical issues.
Yeah. I'm sorry. No, okay. Let's not get into that because I'm sure there's someone out there thinking, shit, he told me.
Is that what he did to me? No, I did. But what you were talking about, so we reached out when we first started helping the Brave to a veteran organization that was pretty big. And we were like, hey, we'd like to have you on. And that was what they said. What's your downloads? What's this? I'm thinking, okay, are we here for the veterans? Are we here for your distribution of what you're trying? Long term, you should be on every veterans podcast, period. So it's,
yeah.
And for me, I'll be on anybody's podcast. Just, I want it because the problem though that you have with some of them is you're trying to help them while you're going through the podcast because they're so new at it, change. Like one big thing I tell everybody comes on mine, put your website for your name. If your name is your website, put that at the bottom of the screen so people can find you. That increased my search drastically since I've been doing that. And I tell a lot of other people when they come on, hey, do you have a website? Then put that as your name, not the other thing.
Yeah, no, that is, and as you've already said, beautifully on StreamYard, when you come into StreamYard, and Zoom's the same, you get to put your name up there. So do put your website. You can see that the pair of us, we're sluts. We've got our websites down there. So if you want to visit edparcaut.com, stevedsims.com, use your website, use that real estate to promote how to get hold of you. Because let's be honest, it's 23 minutes into our chat. And we've only mentioned that because of the subject, but for 23 minutes, it's been a banner at the bottom of our site. So that's good. All right. So what else was in Podfest that excited you outside of the videos?
Well, they were talking. So at the time that week, the prior week when I was posting, I do a few lives a week, and we were posting some of the political ones that we had done, which is the people running for different districts because the districts changed in our area. And I used the word Republican, and I'm not trying to get political here, and as soon as I did that and we posted that to YouTube, they shut down 5 of my other videos on top of that one. And then when I was at the event, I was like, this is ridiculous. And this happened on Thursday, right before I left, or Wednesday, right before I left to go to the event. There was a lady talking in one of the rooms and she had her attorney there because she was shut down because she was talking about vitamins and vegetables. And she didn't say who it was, but I know who it was. You could just tell by the content. And it said that we don't believe you know what you're talking about. And so it's came to our attention and we're shutting you down. So she hired the attorney. And so I asked the attorney afterwards what to do with something like that. And she said, what you should do is just take that information and post it to all the other social media sites. That's what they did to you. I didn't do that. But 2 weeks later, YouTube came back and said, we apologize. A bot accidentally made 5 of your videos go to private. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, you see, and that comes down to the fact, Okay, so
be careful is what I'm getting at. There's a
yeah,
bots
but
being
that's
programmed by
YouTube.
young people who might not like what you put in your stuff.
So let's break that down. You own the content, but you don't own the platform. You
Correct.
rent the platform, you borrow the platform. Okay. So they're in control, but it doesn't stop your message going out. In that situation, you doing the feed, you doing the live, you doing the podcast still would have gone out on all social platforms, including your own podcast, including your own website. So that if YouTube did shut you down, they haven't ceased the message. They've just ceased it on that particular platform. So the first lesson here is make sure that you own the data and the data is always on a platform that you control.
And also the big thing, because a lot of people were up there, not only in that event, but other events, we're talking about how you don't own what you're on, you rent it or lease it. You need to make sure you have everybody's information, who is your subscribers, everybody who's connected to you, so that you own their emails, their other stuff, so you can start sending them additional stuff to them. And there's a lady in our group who does that to extreme degree, which is really good what she does. But I'm just saying, you need to own your stuff. So you need to get them to come off, get them to actually, fill out the form, get them your email, so you have them for the future. So in case something happens.
Yeah, you need. There was a beautiful program a little while ago. I think it was called Social Network or something, and it said that if you're not paying for the product, you are the product, and you don't want. In fact, here's a little test for you. Anybody out there, do this. Google yourself. And if the first thing that pops up is anybody else's platform, LinkedIn, Facebook, YouTube, anyone else's platform, then you're screwed. The first thing that ever pops up when you Google yourself should always be your controlled hub of conversation. We call it within Sims Media CHOC, a controlled hub of conversation. And quite simply, at this moment in time, it's your website, because you have control of what you put up there. So if you're out there and you're trying to build up your brand and you Google yourself and the first thing that pops up is LinkedIn, Clubhouse, anything like that, then you've got a problem, because if they want to kick you off, they will. And then what do? Podfest.
All right. So one more thing about video.
Yeah.
All right. So this guy, have you seen this guy before?
Roger Wakefield. No.
Yeah. Let me get a finger off there. He is the trade talks. Anyway, he is a plumbing contractor who started a YouTube channel 4 years ago. He has since, so he got his first deal a year and a half of doing his YouTube channel for $1 million to start promoting products on there for plumbing. He is now 4 years into it, sold his plumbing company, and because he makes like $1 million a month by promoting all the products and doing everything he's doing. So and I was talking to him about, how did you get there? Because he was at a different little place, and he was like, just by time, and it's the questions, the way you ask the questions to get people connected and stuff like that. But it was just amazing and if you see his pictures, he's older than us, and he's got this weird mustache, and he's just a character. And so you still can make a lot of money by setting up a YouTube channel and going forward with it.
Yeah. There's a
and
million.
Now,
The one thing you got to be aware of is there are lots of those stories about people making millions and millions of dollars from YouTube, but for every 10 of those, there's 10 million that are not.
Right.
Okay. So these are the unicorns, but and here's the thing that gets me. You're not having to pay to do a YouTube show. And that's where the argument goes. Dan Fleischman often says that, hey, if you're not paying for it, use it. Do something with it. And this is what really gets me. People will spend money on Facebook ads. They will spend money on advertising. They will spend money on buying magazines, banners, billboards, whatever. But they won't focus on their time providing content. And today, content is king.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was just bringing him up because he focused on content and then how to do things, and that's what got him so big, because he owns the word. If you type in plumbing, he comes up first in YouTube, which is huge to own something like that.
Yeah.
But there was, most of these events, you go through the days, and the last day you're like, I don't need to go to there anything. Well, the last one I went to on the last day even gave me stuff that I didn't know. And he was talking about how to get people to connect they changed how they did their videos on YouTube. And basically they say that the problem is you want how to whatever they want, right? The person. So this is how you ask the question, how to whatever they want and without whatever their fear is, right? So if you're dealing with kids, how to get your kids to do something without yelling at them, right? And he was talking about how going through and how they changed everything to that format. And he started converting 3 times the way that they used to by just shortening that in. And also the other thing that they were talking about with shorts on, the YouTube shorts, no more than 4 to 5 words on your thumbnails. If you have more than that, that's way too much. And if you can get away with no words on there, you're even better.
What are you changing?
What am I changing? The wording on the thumbnails, because it was a lady who was like a guitar person she goes, you need to know who your group is that you're going after. She was like, I'm 51 years and older guys who lived through the 70s, who are into acoustic guitar. That's my target market, so that YouTube knows who that is. She was talking, her thumbnail was, the pick and then one without just strumming. It was picking versus strumming, and it was just the pictures on there with the verse in the middle. And she's like, that converted like you would not believe, because there's nothing. It was just, they saw the thumbnail and that was what they did. So if you can make your stuff with pictures, it will convert so much better.
Did you come to Vegas Speakeasy with us?
No, I didn't make it that one.
So we went to
I didn't go Vegas or Reno.
So the Vegas Speakeasy, we went to a very, very, and when I say heavily fortified, that's an understatement. This thing was like Fort Knox. It was a server farm in Vegas, and it held servers in there for Ford, eBay, YouTube. And we had these people taking us around these server farms and talking to us about the protection and how people try to hack it and what they got. And they turned around and they said, you think YouTube is a video platform and you think eBay is an auction platform. He said, you're wrong. They're data platforms. And they were saying that when Ford came out with the new Bronco and they were coming out with their new models, the first thing they did was they went to search engines via YouTube and eBay to find out what people were searching for. And they were searching for these things. When Nike are going to release a new pair of retro sneakers, they go to these kind of sites to find out, do people search for them? And if they search for them, they've got an audience. Now, in the old days, you would release something hoping that there was the audience out there that you could get. Now, by looking at these search engines and looking at the views, and now Ford pay eBay and YouTube for that data. You don't need to. If you're going to release something, go onto YouTube and eBay and places and search the term and look at the views. If there are 3 million people viewing how to make your sneakers white again, and you're trying to sell a whitening kit, there's a marketplace. And so you've got those kind of things. So you need to understand these are data. These people have the data of what you need. And I was chatting with Qasim Aslam and Ulrich, who are specialists in Google data and YouTube. And they said you can actually hijack someone else's attention now. So if you've got, let's say Gary Vee doing brilliant videos on wine, you can actually pay to have your advert shown on those videos. You can you can actually purchase those viewers' attention by being the banner advert on his video. So utilize these sites as data driven. So you're gonna focus on video. You're changing your thumbnail words. Anything else before we ring off?
Not really. I mean, because I've been doing this for a while, there wasn't a lot of software changes I want to make. There's not any mic changes I want to make. I got the Rodecaster. A lot of people started with, and I started with the $110 mic on Amazon, which was fine. I just think you need to get going on this. But for me, I'm focused really on video a lot. I've been focused on video before I went there, and now I'm even more because I do a lot of lives. And one thing I'm going to start looking into the Amazon Live. So if you know anybody, I mean, I have all the videos, but if there's anybody in our group who do them, I'd like to talk to them. So.
All right, that's a great one. And as we were talking just before we came on, if you're going to be doing video, good sound is imperative. Bad sound people can't put up with. They can tolerate shaky and stuttery video every now and then, but they can't tolerate bad sound. But yesterday, as I was speaking with you, the Apple did their keynote release of all their new products and stuff. They announced new software coming out. But one of the things that really caught me, that me and you have chatted about before, is we got these phones here, and these phones have 4K cameras on them. The laptops that we purchase have 1080, even the bloody new ones, which are ridiculous. But now the new software update, the new iOS for Apple, is going to allow you to connect your phone seamlessly, like a headphone Bluetooth connection, to become your webcam. And I don't know where to get it yet because it only came out last night. There's these little adapter things that allow the camera to slot onto your laptop, and therefore you're looking at that lens and now getting 4K on your webcam. I'll put that link in below, that actual announcement yesterday. I don't know where the adapters are yet. They're going to come out. They're in the pictures, and I'm sure we'll see them really soon. So you've got a good camera, buy your phone. What is your choice of microphone?
I actually, the SMB, what's this one? I can't tell you. It's the one I used at the studio. It's this is the radio one. I'll tell you, we'll put it in the notes afterwards. I don't take all that time. I just got lucky because I worked at this, went to the radio station. They use these, and I'm like, I'm going to use the same one. And I have the SMB 70, whatever, that expensive one, really nice, that I even sound deeper on. So it's like, I don't really want to use that one all the time unless I'm doing the late show or something.
Midnight DJ. I've got to admit, I use the Shure 58. And the Shure 58 is a classic cheap. I think it's like $60, and
I have them in the other three in this room, so they all have those. Yeah,
those are absolutely fantastic. These things are indestructible. You can beat someone to death with it and then do a podcast. Right. So these are phenomenal.
The only thing I would recommend for anybody, you have a router at your house, buy your internet Ethernet cord that goes to your router and bring it all the way to your laptop, and get the adapter for your laptop, turn off your Wi-Fi and use the Ethernet. It will be such a better signal, because the only way you can use 4K or any higher stuff is that everybody on here has the same speed of internet. I can check my speed over here, 913 upload, download, 41 upload. If I was at 4K, it would be much slower, even for you.
Yeah.
And so I tell everybody, the best thing to do is the Ethernet to direct to your router. I don't care how long the cable is, because I used to, when I was at my home during it, I'd run it all the way into the living room while I was doing them, and then disconnect it and bring it back when I was done, because it's so much better than any Wi-Fi you can do.
I've got my router. I'm touching it now, so it's an arm's length away, but it's on Wi-Fi. And of course, I don't have any kind of Ethernet connection into my Mac, but I'm going to have to get the adapter to do that. Yeah. So today I'll buy the adapter, and I'll put the adapter in the notes of the adapter I purchased.
And how I found that out is because in my other studio, my first one, I had the router right there, and I had Wi-Fi, and it was horrible. I was only 2 feet away from it. So yeah. I found it connected through Ethernet. It was so much easier. You never had to drop. So, but you have to turn off your Wi-Fi. Otherwise, they're fighting, and it messes it up.
All right. What I'm going to ask you to do is, after this live, I'm going to ask you to go in there, because you've been a great show. You've been a great champ on this. Put in your podcast in there so people can see how you sound, how you show up, and also they should be subscribing to your podcast. But Ed, thank you very much for being on First Duties AMA. We really appreciate it.
I appreciate it. If anybody has a podcast, reach out. I'll be on it.
There you go. Thanks, pal. Speak soon.
All right. Thanks.
There you go. So Ed Parcaut, he's a real cool champion. He's a solid lad. Big tree trunk of a fella. Does a lot of good podcasts. But go and watch his podcast and see how he does it. Okay? He's really good on a podcast because he makes the podcast about the guest. Too many podcast hosts make it about them. No one's interested. When you listen to a podcast, you want to know about the guest. So hope that helps you. If you have any questions on doing a podcast, put them in here. There's real experts in it. There's so many people in the Speakeasy group that have a podcast that A, can help you launch a podcast, B, may even want you on the podcast, or C, will actually allow themselves to be on your podcast to make you look better. All right. So you're in a good podcast family there. Anyway, look after yourself. This is AMA, first Tuesday. I will speak with you soon. If you haven't grabbed your speakeasy ticket for LA, stop being a mutt and grab it, because we are oversold out, or half sold out already. And we're doing this one really big because something rather special is going to be happening in October where we are. So don't miss out on that. And I'll speak with you soon. See you later, family. Bye.